In the digital economy, leaders need to cultivate a winning team culture, where teams create value, even remotely, in a network organization. With personal power, they lead people. With position power, they manage work. They know the difference, so they manage by head to enforce order, and lead by heart to stoke morale. They adapt their leadership style to the work situation. They nurture relationships with the right enablers to promote agile team performance, not individual performance. To do it well, they hone 3 critical skills: empathy, engagement, and execution. In the previous episode, we learned the Orbex 4.0 leadership paradigm. In the context of the new workplace, we reviewed the results of decades of research that have provided answers to key questions underlying the paradigm: the desired culture, the relationships and psychological climate that enable agility, and the critical skills of an effective digital team leader. In this episode, you will take a deeper look at the challenge of practicing idea meritocracy, which can only be realized when relationships in your team have matured to the highest level of unity in the Orbex 4.0 relationship bar.
What makes a winning team unique? The psychological climate called idea meritocracy separates the winning team from the rest of the pack. That rare climate makes it possible to have open and meaningful two-way communications between the leader and its members and among its members. Winning teams believe in radical transparency. Opinions are expressed freely, without much hesitation, without fear of punishment or ridicule. Opposing ideas, when expressed openly, do not make its leader or its members feel attacked or offended. So they practice radical honesty. They open their minds to the ideas of other people. They are ready and willing to accept, without much reservation, that the other idea just might be better than theirs in some way. Everyone in the team is fully aware that nobody has a monopoly of the best ideas. As a result, the team has a much better chance of exploring, discussing, and finding the best idea among alternatives. Where will your journey of building a winning team begin? Let's take a look. This is where it all begins: human relationships. A relationship potentially begins when two individuals interact. Almost all interactions in the context of work are triggered by individuals who need to achieve something. The interaction will surely start with an effort to arrive at a shared meaning, a shared understanding of the work at hand. This is the essence of communication. It is the effort to transmit and share a message using words and actions. The effort creates a state of one entity being in relationship with another entity. The two entities are united by a shared interest to work together in order to achieve their respective goals. From the lowest level of cordiality or simple formality to the highest level called solidarity, people experience 4 levels of unity. Let us examine them in turn. The lowest level of unity is the unity of space. It is effortless. Unity of space is experienced by individuals who are in the same space at the same time. When you're inside an elevator or riding a bus, a plane, or a train, you and your fellow passengers are experiencing unity of space, united by coincidence. The indifference is understandable. One or both of you may decide to offer a nod, a polite smile, or a cursory greeting. Members of a team that have just been introduced to each other start their relationship at this level of unity, the unity of space. Let's go back to the elevator. What will happen if it suddenly grinds to a halt? The passengers will surely rise to a higher level of unity, the unity of thought. Facing a common threat that could spell danger, their indifference turns into cooperation. They will start talking in earnest. They will bring their minds together to agree on what can and should be done to be safe under the circumstances. In the workplace, most teams are at this level of unity. They have goals and standards to achieve. They interact and work together under a leader to achieve them. Workers are seldom free to choose the team that they like. Duty calls for them to cooperate with whoever they assign to work. When leader and members interact to achieve the team's goals and standards, there can be disagreement, misunderstanding, even conflict. Hybrid work from home and work from office arrangements increase the likelihood of miscommunication and introduce difficulties of cooperation. Unconsciously, the ego can feel if it is being attacked when there is a difference of opinion. Only a leader who can nourish the right psychological climate can raise the level of unity to the next level, the unity of context. When the demands of ego are seen in the larger context of the company's mission, people become less defensive, should become. It is at this level of unity that the team is able to forge a trust bond. In a way, unity of context is a testing ground. Are my team members worthy of trust? The decision to rise beyond unity of thought is usually aimed at reaching the highest level of unity, the unity of spirit, usually. Unity of context calls for a member to forsake the ego for a higher good. It is a serious trade-off. The trust bond being forged by the team's members will be put to test. Any member who feels that the trust bond was betrayed will retreat to unity of thought and stay there. But if and when sincerity backs up the trust bond, team members will see that they rise to the higher level of unity with good reason. Unity of spirit is that highest level of unity that they can aim for, and now it can be seen as achievable because trust is being proven to be worthy. Validation of trust bond gives birth to solidarity. When members experience unity of spirit, fierce open debate does not trigger ill feelings at all, even when it is done tactlessly sometimes. Passionate exchanges are perceived in the context of the common good. Consensus becomes a natural expression of solidarity, which in turn promotes speed and flexibility during execution later on. It is very difficult to bring a team to this level of unity, the unity of spirit. Decades of research show that less than 20% of all teams in large companies rise to the level of unity of context. Less than 5% reach the level of unity of spirit. Why is this? What normally happens when individuals take opposite sides to an argument start with tension. People who have a low level of self-awareness don't even realize it. They will see opposition as an attack. For them, disagreement triggers the fight or flight reflex. Protect yourself or escape. The psychological climate of the team is often defined by moments like this. especially when it takes place between the leader and the member. The team's leader sets the tone by setting an example. How will the team member be treated? Will the leader use position power to summarily overrule the dissenter? Will the dissenter be ignored, ridiculed, or scolded? Or will he or she choose to use personal power? Will the leader set an example that encourages members to express their opinions, consenting or otherwise? Appreciate radical honesty and radical transparency. Set aside the egoistic demand for recognition and support. In short, nourish a psychological climate that promotes idea meritocracy. Discourage idea autocracy. What is idea autocracy? Think of that famous wall poster or meme about the two important rules in the office. Rule number one, the boss is right. Rule number two, if the boss is wrong, see rule number one. You know, that's idea autocracy. Discourage idea democracy. What is idea democracy? It's what happens when the majority vote determines the right idea. Isn't it a shame when the best idea is not chosen because it is not popular enough? Discourage idea bureaucracy. What is idea bureaucracy? Imagine two co-workers who decide to give up and end their passionate discussion abruptly with, "We've talked enough already. Let's just ask the boss what he or she thinks and spare ourselves the heartache." The decision is left up in the air with neither a conclusion or a recommendation, without completed staff work. Those three behavioral norms put your company at a disadvantage. Idea meritocracy is the responsible thing to do. The right idea is the boss. The monument of knowledge is built by the conflict of opinions. Where an idea comes from should not be an issue. Neither should its popularity. Radical honesty and radical transparency should be appreciated, not condemned. Opening up to the idea of others should not come with a feeling of inferiority. All these make it easier for the team to reach sincere consensus. And sincere consensus greatly helps execution. Forsaking the ego when solving problems and choosing the best ideas promotes growth. The maturity needed to nourish the psychological climate of idea meritocracy coincides with reaching the highest level of unity of spirit. Classical Indonesian literature has a word for this highest level of the manifestation of humanity, of recognizing our individuality. It's called nguongke. Say it. African culture also has a word for it. It's called Ubuntu. Nguongke, Ubuntu. The oldest civilizations have a word for it. Nguongke enables trust and solidarity, the two preconditions for the psychological climate called idea meritocracy. It is the climate that encourages candor and open-mindedness. This is the anatomy of human relationships. We will end this foundational episode by featuring two outstanding CEOs from different continents. Theodore Permati Rahmat is the founder and CEO of Triputra Group, a highly diversified business conglomerate that employs over 63,000 people. Raymond Thomas Dalio. He is the founder and co-chief investment officer of Bridgewater Associates, one of the world's largest hedge funds. They employ just over 1,000 people to manage assets worth well over $160 billion in 2017. Mr. Rakhmat is the co-author of Orbex and my sage mentor. Lunchtime discussions with Mr. Rakhmat gave birth to the paradigm in 1988. We used it for a highly successful leadership and culture development program at Astra International, a company that still enjoys the highest market cap value on the Indonesia Stock Exchange. Annual revenues grew from $1 billion to $7 billion in 7 years. During that time, our firm trained over 4,500 managers to build a winning team culture. We defined it as a culture that champions respect for the individual. Respect for the individual is the clearest manifestation of idea meritocracy. Mr. Rakhmat went on to build his second business colossus, Triputra, with the same Orbex tagline: excellence through people and process. Mr. Dalio is the author of Principles, Life and Work. This excellent book was featured on the New York Times bestseller list as a, open quote, gospel of radical transparency, close quote. The corporate culture of radical honesty and radical transparency at Bridgewater is legendary. Their website greets visitors with pride in the idea meritocracy that defines their corporate culture. Critics think that idea meritocracy relies on utopian expectations of the human condition. But is it good for business? Bridgewater has consistently outperformed, done better than market since its inception in 1975. According to a 2007 article in Barron's magazine, open quote, nobody was better prepared for the global market crash than Bridgewater's clients, close quote. What do you believe? Is man capable of Ngwongke Ubuntu? Can your people be trained to nourish the psychological climate of idea meritocracy? Think about it.
In this episode, we learned the 4 levels of unity experienced by individuals in a relationship. We examined the preconditions of trustworthiness and solidarity needed to grow your work team to unity of spirit, where you can practice the candor and open-mindedness of idea meritocracy. You now understand the challenge to make Ngwongke Ubuntu a way of life in your human relationships, and see why it can only be nourished by the shared understanding and commitment of a leader and all the members of your team. In the next episode, you will learn to reflect on and assess the quality of your relationships using the Orbex 4.0 relationship bar.